Before we go back into Brexit, can you talk about this special relationship between the US and the UK, how you feel about it, how it changed in the Blair years, and then the comment you just made?
See, I grew up in the Cold War, and I believed what we were being told, that there was this huge Soviet threat. And I mean, the first American election I remember is Kennedy winning in '60. And that was all about Kennedy saying that Russians have overtaken us, they've got more nuclear weapons, all of that. What we now know is that when he was being briefed, having become president, he was told that America's got 400 missiles capable of reaching Russia. They have 4 capable of reaching America. America has 10 times the nuclear weapons of the Soviet Union. It was only 15 years later, in the mid-70s, that the Soviet Union finally caught up. And basically, I think, I didn't start out as a conspiracy theorist, but I've become one. The military-industrial complex, I just wanted the Cold War. It created vast wealth. And oddly enough, Eisenhower, a Republican president, who went along with all of that, half of all federal government spending was on the military. But in his final message to the American people, just before he left office, he warned about the growing power of this military-industrial complex, and it's still there today. And we're about to spend £40 billion on 4 nuclear submarines we'll never use. But we've got the smallest army since Waterloo and Napoleon. We've got 2 aircraft carriers coming along which haven't got any planes on. I mean, our military is its weakest it's ever been, and all the money's going on for nuclear subs we won't ever use. It's madness. But it's a bit like the plan to build this massive new Hinkley Point nuclear power station, coming at 25 billion. We'd just be better to give everybody enough money to put solar panels on their roof.
And what about the relationship with the US? Is it not even more important now if we leave the European Union?
Well, if we leave the European Union, I think we'll end up basically sucked into the American orbit on a grand scale. I mean,
which is bad.
It is bad because, I mean, all the American interventions, there's a brilliant series, I don't think it's ever been shown on TV in Britain, but you can get it on DVDs, Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States, that actually just depicts the Cold War was driven by America's economic interests. And I mean, the bizarre thing, Vietnam, which is most likely the most horrific war America's been involved in my lifetime. On the day the Japanese surrendered in 1945, Ho Chi Minh, the communist leader, approached the American president to say, we'd like your help to create a proper independent Vietnam. Because for 1,000 years, Vietnam had been in conflict with China. The idea that it was just going to be a red Chinese puppet was nonsense. And you have to ask, didn't State Department officials realise these were 2 nations at loggerheads? I know we had 30 years of war, at least 3.5 million Vietnamese killed. Still today, the chemical bombing that was done is seeing children being born with horrendous deformities. And then you look at all our interventions in the Middle East, you know, invading, overthrowing the government in Iran back in '53, invading, Iraq and Afghanistan. We would have been better just to let the Arabs sell us their oil at a reasonable price. The cost of these wars has been horrendous. And is the Middle East any better? Terrorism's a growing threat. Britain was awful, its empire ruined nations around the world, and America's sort of unofficial empire has done the same. Let countries run themselves.
It's a great documentary called The Fog of War, where they interview Robert McNamara, which is JFK's Secretary of Defense, and he talks about having a conversation with one of the North Vietnamese army generals after the conflict, and they sat down and had a few drinks, and they were both equally convinced that they were both completely opposite in their interests, as in the Vietnamese said, there's no way you could have think that we would have been with the Chinese, and McNamara's like, of course we did. And they were just back and forth in this fascinating
People should read history.
Yeah, there should be more history.
I bet no American politician knew the history of conflicts in Vietnam and China over 1,000 years.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, learn from the best minds in the world, and connect with a community of passionate people building the best versions of themselves. Just click on the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.